It's time to talk draft talk. We are only 2 weeks away. Cameron's over here. Only 2 weeks away from the draft now as we speak, because draft 27th of April. I'm taking my time to get into this kind of stuff because there's just so much that goes into doing lists, and like my spreadsheet of players is up to about 250 now at this stage. So I thought the best way to do it, which is kind of the way the last time I did draft content on this channel, was I think I did top 5 running backs similar to what this video is, which is top 5 running backs for this class. And I did my 5 favorite players in the draft rather than doing every single position, because running back is a position I pay the most attention to. It's my favorite position on a football field, and especially with this draft class, I'll start off by saying we know who number 1 is, because Bijan Robinson is up there with, for me anyway, with the likes of a Jonathan Taylor, with the likes of an Adrian Peterson as a draft prospect in my eyes coming out. So that's and Christian McCaffrey. That's how good I think Bijan Robinson is. He's a generational talent, and he's probably one of 2 guys that we take in the first round. But this is going to be something where I talk about the other guys. Like the top 2 are pretty much solidified for everybody, I think. Maybe you can swap to number 2, but Bijan at number 1 is a lock-in, so I'm not going to waste my time with that. But we're going to start off with 5. 3 to 5 was the hardest part. Well, to be honest, I my honorable mentions goes from 6 to 14 in these notes. I try to keep it concise, but like I said, this is one of the best draft classes of running backs we've had in a while. Like I said, any of these guys from 1 to 14 are somewhat, at least, usable backs, I guess, or like, yeah, I guess usable is where I go. Anyway, starting off number 5, going with Devon. I say Devon A-Chain, it's probably the Irish in me, from Texas A&M, 1,100 yards this year, 5.6, my notes are to the left as always, 5.6 yards per attempt, 8 touchdowns, 53 forced missed tackles, 705 yards after the catch. He ended up being, I think he was the quickest guy in the 40-yard dash for running backs this year with a 4.32. The notes I have on him is that he's possibly the most elusive back in this draft class. He's pure speed, balance, and explosiveness. That, like, he's hard to get your hands on him. He's deadly outside the tackles and in the open field, in like outside sweeps and stuff. He has good awareness when the play breaks down at the line of scrimmage, and his ability to get out of jams with his jukes. He's just a very elusive back. But the reason I kind of have him at a 4, like the guy who I have sorry, he's a 5. Sorry, the guy who I have a 4, I kind of swapped a lot. But Devon A-Chain, more so because he's just not as strong as a runner as the top 4, in my opinion. He does kind of have a lot of versatility that I think hasn't been utilized yet, because he wasn't used that much in the passing game for Texas A&M. But I think if you give him to an offense, like as I say every year, with any running back that's quick or that can be used in the pass game with 49ers or something like that, that's where Devon A-Chain would fit in well. But like I said, he falls just because of speed. He's the fastest there, I think. Not really that close, in my opinion, of the top guys. And yeah, he's just not as strong as runners as the top 4. The next guy at number 4, I'll go through these quickly, is a guy who I would have had a lot. Honestly, I could have had him at 3 or 2. But it's Dwayne McBride from UAB. I'm going to go through stats first. 1,702 yards, most in the nation. He was second most to Chase Brown. 7.3 yards per carry, 19 touchdowns, 76 forced missed tackles, 1,072 yards after contact, which is, I think 62% of his yards were after contact. When you watch him, you can understand why. Over 200, this is all on over 200 carries. He would be higher, but he plays in the AAC. He doesn't play the kind of talent of the guys ahead who are in the Pac-12 and the SEC and the Big Ten. He just doesn't play that kind of talent. But still, the biggest thing, he's not the quickest, but he has breakaway speed. He's good balance and hard to bring down, similar to Devon A-Chain, but not really similar in that sense. He's a stronger runner, more upright runner, I guess, in my opinion, than a Devon A-Chain. I keep saying Devon changing every time. He rarely runs outside the tackles, which is a massive thing when you watch. He is very between the A and B gaps, but it's how he explodes and how he actually finds these gaps is what is amazing to me. And he's just kind of got at nearly every single rush. Now again, he played in the AAC, which obviously has to be taken into account, which is why he's that 1 or 2 spots lower than what I would have wanted him to be. But it's the way he finds the holes, and he's gone. Before a defender even has a chance to get him or get their arms around him, he has gone through that hole. And like I said, 702 yards and 62% of after contact. It shows what you want from him. And like I said, 19 touchdowns. I think he had over 10 touchdowns before as well, I'm pretty sure. But he is not my favourite back, because Bijan's my favourite. But Dwayne McBride, I really hope gets taken to a team where he'll be used enough. Like maybe Seahawks. I've seen people compare him to Chris Carson, which kind of is somewhat, because Chris Carson is was, I guess, pretty much a downhill runner between the gaps, kind of ISO running. He's not really going to bounce outside, but still his effectiveness between the gaps and between the guards and the center is what you look for. And he's just so much fun to watch. Like if you put on Dwayne McBride highlights to watch or watching with the games from UAB, he carried the team first of all. But he's just so much fun to watch. He really is one of the most fun players watching this draft. Next at number 3 is a guy who last year I liked him. I didn't love him. Now I love him. I don't know, but it's a better draft class this year for running backs, which is kind of weird why I love him more with the talent he's up against in this draft class. But it's Zach Charbonnet from UCLA. I didn't realize how much I liked him. Like I watched UCLA a good bit this year because I like Dorian Thompson-Robinson, their quarterback. It's just so much fun to watch. But then you find yourself looking at Zach Charbonnet. It's like, this guy is a lot better than people seem to think he is. And I see him anywhere from number 3 to number 5 to outside the top 5 in people's rankings. That's why it's just there's so much talent in this draft. You kind of get any kind of running back you want is kind of there. Looking at his yards, his stats from past years: 1,358 yards, 7 yards per carry. Again, another guy over 7 yards per carry, similar to Dwayne McBride. 14 touchdowns, he had 13 the year before. 53 forced missed tackles, 806 yards after the catch. The notes I have on him are he's a pinball when hitting defenders. He's strong at breaking tackles. Even he kind of somewhat looks for contact. He lowers his shoulder and he runs at guys and wants to run through guys, which I really like because he's a good mix of that strength and balance of bouncing off guys and still being able to have a change of pace to go off that, to break off these tackles and go for like break off bigger yards, I guess what I'm trying to say. He's good in the passing game. I don't think the guy who ahead of him is that much better in the pass game than him. I think he's somewhat underrated just because he played in the Pac-12 and those defenses are not SEC defenses. It's an air yard kind of game, so it's like you expect the passing game to open up. But another thing I like as well, he's a good sudden change of pace behind the line of scrimmage where he's not. I don't think he's similar in the way Devontae Chain is behind the line of scrimmage, where he's making guys miss and making them look foolish in the backfield. I think he just has good awareness, and then instantly can put a foot in the ground and he's gone, breaks through. He breaks on the outside or the inside, kind of more versatile in that sense to Dwayne McBride. Again, I bounce between the two of these guys a lot, Dwayne and Zach Charbonnet, because they are both high volume backs that can get you a lot of yards, can be bell cows, and I would like either of them in the NFL. I think both of them have a lot going for them, more so than Devontae Chain. I had A Chain at 3 at one stage, but then we start getting down to trying to pick like what do you like, what do you think can translate. I do think Zach Charbonnet and Dwayne McBride will be better NFL backs than Devontae Chain, depending what kind of system they go into. But Zach Charbonnet, like I said, liked him last year, loved him this year, and I even sent it to the guys who I'm in a group chat with, where I just found myself just, I might have tweeted actually, because there's no point talking about draft stuff with some people. Sorry, Luke. But I just love watching him, and I think he's somewhat underrated in that sense. And like I said, he's not going to be first round back. We have 2 first round backs in this draft, and that's pretty much it. There shouldn't be many more. And like I said earlier, moving on to number 2, 1 and 2 are locked. Like when I was doing these lists before, I had 3 to 14, as I said. I had number 1 and 2 locked. Number 2 is who I made a video about last year, where I thought, or maybe it was a podcast, I think, where I said he was one of my favorite transfers, underrated transfer, was Jahmyr Gibbs going from Georgia Tech to Alabama. And you saw that this year, where he was the weapon in this, one of the worst Alabama offense we've seen, and like Bryce Young found him a lot. He was a number 1 wide receiver on the team and a number 1 rusher on the team. It was the Jahmyr Gibbs show and Bryce Young show, or nothing else really. It says a lot of Alabama for once, but he finished with 926 yards rushing, but 440 yards receiving, 6.1 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns, but also had 3 receiving touchdowns. So that's 10 touchdowns on a year, 38 forced missed tackles. Some people have him as 1 because he is more of a dynamic receiver than a Bijan Robinson, and because he has this, it just explodes out of nowhere, like more so than the other 3. Right, Devontae Chain obviously is good, but there's better balance in Jahmyr Gibbs' game. There's better strength, lower body strength. There's better. He makes his guys miss and make fool. Again, like I said, out of the pass game, he can run routes a lot better than most of these guys, bar a fellow who actually have number 6. But we'll get to that later on. Like Jahmyr Gibbs, I could see an argument for him being not being the best running back. Definitely not. People who say he's the best running back is a bit ridiculous. Maybe a better fit for the NFL, you could say, in a way. But number one, Bijan Robinson, it's hard. I don't see anyone being a better running back. I think he's going to fit into whatever offense he's supposed to go into and do what he's supposed to do and do what he did at Texas. Like, it was a freshman year, 900 yards his freshman year, and he wasn't used enough. Was it 500? He had way less than you thought a guy like Bijan Robinson would have in his first year because Texas just didn't use him enough. But 1,575 yards, 18 touchdowns, 104 forced missed tackles, 1,071 yards after contact. His both years as a starter or full-time starter, I guess, he had 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns in both those years and 6.1 yards per carry. I don't need to say much more about Bijan Robinson. I think he is arguably he definitely is a top 5 overall player in this draft. As a prospect, he might be even top 3 or 4, I guess. But like it's Bijan Robinson and it's the rest of them. But like I said, this class is very strong. Looking at the guys I left off the list, I Deuce Vaughn from Kansas State, which is hard for me because if you follow me on Twitter or the page on Twitter, we had Deuce Watch for a long time. He's just so much fun out of the passing game. He can run serious routes as a slot receiver. He's just so versatile in that sense, but he is 5'5", so he's not going to be like that much. Tank Bigsby, I had big hopes from this year, but that offensive line in Auburn is struggling, but he also makes bad decisions behind the line of scrimmage, while the likes of Dwayne McBride, Zach Sharp, and Devon A. Chain are able to be in similar situations and break them off a bit better. Kendre Miller from TCU, liked him a lot. Sean Tucker for Syracuse took a big drop for me again. Ty J. Spears from Tulane, another good guy. Chase Brown, a bell cow. Mo Ibrahim from Minnesota, just a touchdown machine. I love him so much. His injury broke my heart 2 years ago, but he's just, again, all guys that can be used at some stage, might not be starters, but can be used. Keaton Mitchell from East Carolina. And lastly, on the list I had, just a few more I could think of, is Deneric Prince from Tulsa. So that just shows you how deep his class is. Like, I had 14 guys in this list alone, and that's not even all the guys I could have put in there. And you could kind of pick and choose between all of them. Like I said, a Tank Bigsby or Deuce Vaughn sadly. But anyway, I'm not going to keep going because I'm going on forever with this. I love this running back class. I always love running back classes. They're always my favorite to watch. And like I said, I can deep dive into running back position more than any other position on the field. And that's kind of why I feel more comfortable doing these kind of videos, where I can actually give you somewhat of an insight into what I understand about it, I guess. Because I really do. It is by far my favorite position on a football field. But Bijan Robinson will be a first round pick. Jahmyr Gibbs possibly. So that's 2 first rounders, and the other guys are kind of first round talents, I guess. But there's just so many good backs in the NFL, so many good young backs in the NFL that they are going to fall by the wayside. So we'll see how it goes. 2 weeks time. Next video I probably do draft related will be my favorite 5 players rather than more positional. I'll probably do positional rankings in shorts or something like that. But we'll see where we go. And yeah, Bijan Robinson I love Bijan Robinson.